Welcome to the webinar, Venezuela Chooses What is at Stake in the Coming Elections, which is jointly organized by Orinoco Tribune and the International Manifesto Group, featuring 4 eminent analysts who will discuss various aspects of the upcoming presidential election in Venezuela. Today is part 1 of this webinar series. The next part will be next Sunday, that is July 14, at the same time, so remember that date also. So Venezuela goes to the polls on 28th July 2024, that is the last Sunday of this month, to elect the president for the next 6-year term that will begin on 10th January next year. So this election is taking place amidst a hybrid war against Venezuela, a war not of Venezuela's choosing, but imposed by the United States. The main feature of this war is a ferocious and all-encompassing economic, financial, and trade blockade carried out through 936 unilateral coercive measures imposed by the United States, the UK, Canada, the European Union, that have gravely affected the country's economy and all walks of life. This war also includes repeated coup attempts, assassination attempts, terror plots, and even a fake government that nobody elected, but that stole most of Venezuela's assets abroad with US blessings and collusion. This war also gets conducted in the media sphere, as is evident from the anti-Venezuela smear campaign by all mainstream media. And unfortunately, even some alternative media fall into the trap of what I like to call the Venezuela exception, which is the notion that everything that Venezuela does is bad. Despite all this, President Nicolas Maduro has continued the radical transformation of Venezuela that began under Hugo Chavez. Under Maduro's leadership, Venezuela has weathered the storm. Shortages and hyperinflation have been overcome, and in a remarkable transition that has not been televised, Venezuela has become self-sufficient in food production and various other productive sectors in ways unknown for, I would like to say, since colonization. Moreover, President Maduro's astute political strategy has brought all factions of the opposition into the electoral path, including the US-backed hardline opposition sectors grouped into the Unitary Platform for Democracy. In October 2023, the Unitary Platform and the Venezuelan government signed the Barbados Agreement, which guaranteed that each political faction or party or coalition could select its presidential candidate freely, as long as the candidate was eligible to participate according to the Venezuelan Constitution and Venezuelan electoral laws. There was another agreement between the governments of Venezuela and the United States, signed in Doha, where the US pledged support for the Barbados Agreement. Thereafter, the United States Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control issued limited licenses for the Venezuelan oil, gas, and gold sectors, which were already under sanctions, in return for the release of opposition figures and US citizens who had been in prison in Venezuela for their involvement in coup attempts and terrorist plots. However, after a series of violations of the Barbados Agreement committed by both the Unitary Platform and its US backers, the agreement had been discarded and replaced by a new accord reached in May in the National Consensus Dialogue in Venezuela that led to the electoral schedule. Thereafter, the United States government returned to its original regime change policy, canceling its licenses, and is now threatening to deny the legitimacy of the July 28th election results because allegedly the elections are not free and fair, which I suppose because the United States authorities' favored candidate, the extremist politician Maria Corina Machado, has not been allowed to run. Machado was disqualified from holding political office for 15 years for acts of treason she had committed in 2014, and this ban was ratified in January this year by the Supreme Court of Venezuela. Although you would not see this in Western mainstream media that projects Machado as a victim of the dictatorial Maduro regime. Machado, despite being disqualified, had continued to insist on her candidacy until the last moment, when the Unitary Platform was forced to name a substitute candidate, the retired career diplomat Edmundo González Urrutia. However, even among the Unitary Platform sympathizers, there are voices that question González's autonomy and decision-making power independent from Machado, as it appears that he is only acting as her agent, which borderlines illegality, according to electoral laws anywhere in the world, I would suppose. So as the election date approaches, all opinion polls in Venezuela are showing that the incumbent candidate, President Nicolas Maduro, is the clear favorite, with voting intentions for him crossing 50% in all polls. Meanwhile, the hard-right opposition is launching a campaign on mainstream media and social media, crying fraud, even before the election has taken place. This reflects this opposition sector's usual strategy, a strategy which has been applied time and again in Venezuela with disastrous consequences. And let's remember the latest ones, the violence of 2014, 2017, and the self-proclamation of Guaido in 2019, accompanied by a violent coup attempt that continues to this day. Thus, it is evident that the stage is being set for the United States to declare the Venezuelan elections fraudulent and illegitimate, and to continue its regime change efforts against a country that is at the forefront of the multipolar and democratic transitions in Latin America. So this webinar, involving a range of experts, will analyze the challenges of this decisive moment in Venezuela's history.
I'm Michael Hudson. I'm appearing here for the International Manifesto Group. If you like this video and ones like it, please subscribe. For more information, go to the address on the screen.